statement on the governorship, state houses of assembly, and FCT area council elections. And this is the statement by the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room. I'll read portions of the statement, and it will be circulated soon after this briefing. The Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room continued with its observation of the 2019 Nigeria general elections I'll start again. Sorry. The Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room continued its observation of the 2019 general elections. And in this interim report, we are focusing on reports and incidents arising from the governorship and state legislative elections, as well as FCT area council elections, looking at issues and incidents arising beginning from the close of polls to collation of results and all of the issues actually surrounding the elections. We note that polls commencement in this election held on March 9th was an improvement on the previous election held on February 23rd, and we commend INEC for this improvement, although we received reports of late commencement of poll in a few states and instances, and certainly those states are well noted, including Lagos, Imo, Bayelsa, and Rivers State. We note voter apathy in this election, and the voter apathy is indeed worrying. Observations indicate a worrying level of voter apathy across the country. And in this case, we're worried that this may denote citizens, not just apathy, but citizens' loss of faith and confidence in the electoral process. Our findings indicate that this voter apathy is partly in response to the disappointing conduct of the February 23 presidential elections, and again will state over militarization of the electoral process in many parts of the country. The March 9 governorship and legislative elections saw improved use of the smart card readers. The reports received from observers showed limited incidents of smart card reader malfunction, and there were few failures or glitches. And where this occurred, INEC made efforts to rectify as much as possible. There were also reports of significant logistics improvements in this election, especially as it relates to timely delivery of electoral materials and the opening and to the various polling units. Indeed, complete delivery of election materials in several polling units. There were, however, reports of delays in Imo, Lagos, Rivers, and Bayelsa states. This was again related to delivery of materials. We also received complaints of non-payment of ad hoc staff for the elections, and several of these incidents are documented, including Lagos and Plateau states. Collation of results. Early reports show that the collation of results remains a major weak point in Nigeria's election management and administration. In Rivers State, we have received numerous reports of security agencies interfering in the collation process. We have received reports of deliberate targeting of election and collation officers making their ways to the state's collation center. One example is in Andoni local government, where the electoral officer was targeted, and there are several other local governments in Rivers State that are in issue. In Ebonyi, ward collation was abandoned due to the interference of security agents. In Imo State, bus loads of collation officers, about 10 of them, was seized by the Governor Rochas Okorocha of Imo State, forcing INEC to engage in impromptu recruitment of fresh collation officers. As we speak, the governor is also reported to have seized coalition officials in Idato South, local government of Imo State, in an attempt to force announcement of favorable results. Also in Akwa Ibom State, we have received reports of military interference in the coalition process. Several reports of exclusion of accredited observers were also received, and it was widespread across several states: Delta, Akwa Ibom, Rivers State, of course, where election observers were excluded. In addition to election observers being excluded, we also received reports of observers being arrested and in some cases journalists being held. And we do have a particular case in Rivers State, but also in Abuja, where a journalist, Dele Peter, is being held at the Abacha barracks as we speak. Election violence. Situation Room states unequivocally that elections are a means of citizens democratically exercising their rights to choose their government. And as such, no election should cost lives. Situation Room notes with profound sadness the election-related violence that has led to the deaths of some Nigerians, including an honorable member of the National Assembly, House of Representatives, Honorable Tomitokbe Olatoye, otherwise known as Honorable Sugar, in Oyo State, who was shot, and Sunday Oro, who was also shot and killed in Enugu State. Situation Room notes that in Rivers, Plateau, and Edo states, there were reports of denial of access to polling units by political thugs. In Ahuada local government of Rivers State, journalists were kidnapped, although they were later released. Situation Room is also concerned about the attack on INEC officials. In Benue State, 4 polling officials. In Kogi State, 6 polling officials were kidnapped. Reports received from Imo State was of the sequestration of 14 coalition officers, and I've mentioned this related to Idato South, where the governor has been active in violating election laws. Partner organizations in Rivers and Akwa Ibom states gave reports of harassment of polling officials. In Isoko North, Delta State, there were reports that corps members were beaten by hoodlums. In addition, election materials at the registration area center in Eza North local government area of Ebonyi State was set ablaze by thugs, and election materials were reportedly burnt in some parts of Benue State. On vote buying, we received reports of vote buying, and it seemed quite rife and prevalent across the country. In Adamawa, in Sokoto, in Lagos, in Delta, in Enugu, in Ekiti, in Bauchi, in Benue, in Nasarawa, Plateau, Kwara, Zamfara, Kebbi, Oyo, Kano, Osun, and of course Lagos. Situation Room notes that the election has been fraught with issues and challenges. Conclusion. In the light of the above, all of these issues, and this is beyond the governorship elections and extends to the presidential and National Assembly elections, Situation Room is calling for an inquiry into the conduct of the 2019 general elections. The election fell far below the standards that we outlined in the document that we issued, which is the threshold document for credible elections in Nigeria. This document followed from several years of consultation and dialogue sessions with INEC, with the security services, and indeed stakeholders in the election process. In the light of all of this, we are worried that the election has not met the criteria for credible elections and needs to be inquired into. So we're calling for an independent inquiry into the conduct of the elections. This independent inquiry should address, amongst other issues, related to procurement, logistics management, and very importantly and especially the role of the military in the abuse of power and participation in the elections. It has never happened in this country that we have had this level of military interference in our elections. This calls for an independent inquiry to find out who authorized the use of the military to the extent that it has been used in these elections. The law is very clear on the use of the military, and that law is clear that the military can only be involved on the invitation of INEC and for the purposes of aiding the distribution of election materials and protection of officials where INEC makes that request. Videos going around showed even military officers pursuing people into the kitchens of residences of persons. This is unprecedented in Nigeria's election history. And we believe that this country needs to institute an independent inquiry into the conduct of this election, including the role of the military and its interference with the elections. We also believe that it is important that INEC calls out publicly the institutions, individuals, and events that may have contributed to undermine its ability to carry out credible elections. It is also important that INEC is honest in admitting its own failures. This is needed in order that citizens have a restored faith in the electoral process and in democracy in Nigeria. If this does not happen, we might as well say goodbye to democracy. But certainly, the state that we're in means that this country is not able to conduct elections that is credible and that can help us say quite clearly that we are practicing democracy. There must be individual accountability for violence and manipulating of the electoral process. This is a collective duty for all law enforcement agencies in Nigeria. We cannot, as a country, afford to permit this level of impunity and disruption of the electoral process. INEC should take a lead on these issues and transparently inform Nigerians where it has encountered difficulties with these elections. The number of fatalities around this election is unacceptable. Voters, INEC officials, and security agencies have lost lives. We call for an inquiry and ascertainment of the numbers of persons who have lost lives in these elections, and we call on the Nigerian government to ensure that families of persons who have lost lives are acknowledged and compensation paid for this. In addition, INEC officials and security agents who have suffered physical and psychological injuries must be supported and rehabilitated. This is the statement of the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room on the conduct of the governorship, legislative, and FCT area council elections held on March 9. And additionally, we have concluded by calling for an independent inquiry into the entirety of the conduct of the 2019 general elections, which we believe failed to meet the thresholds set for credible elections in Nigeria. Thank you.